All right, so today we're going to dive into oil and gas, but uh, not the kind you might be thinking of. We're not talking about like the rigs and pipelines and all that. This is more about the behind-the-scenes stuff, what's called back office outsourcing. And there's this company, EAG Inc. They're kind of like a secret weapon for these oil and gas companies, taking care of all the essential but kind of overlooked administrative tasks.
Yeah, and what I find interesting about EAG is that they're not just like your typical outsourcing company, you know? They've really focused in on this niche, upstream and midstream oil and gas companies, offering their expertise in things like accounting, land administration, which can be a total nightmare, by the way, and even something called volumetric accounting.
Okay, so break it down for me. What does EAG actually do? The article mentions things like revenue processing, joint interest billing, managing all those leases and records, and even like making sure everything's compliant with regulations. Sounds like a lot to juggle.
It is a lot, and that's exactly the point. These are all things that every oil and gas company has to deal with. But it can be such a drain on resources. Imagine having to build up all those departments in-house, hiring all those people. It's a lot. So that's where EAG steps in. They've got this whole team of specialists ready to take it on.
That's got to be a relief for these companies.
Absolutely.
The article really hammers home this point about saving money and time. They even say that EAG can like significantly cut monthly G&A spending. I bet executives love to hear that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But it's not even just about saving money. EAG brings this whole level of specialized knowledge to the table, knowledge that a lot of oil and gas companies just wouldn't have in-house. Like,
Right.
take land administration, for example. It's super complex. All those mineral rights and lease agreements and royalty payments. I mean, one tiny mistake could cost a company millions. So having EAG there to make sure everything's accurate and efficient, it can make a world of difference.
You mentioned something else that caught my eye. Volumetric accounting. What is that?
So imagine having to track like every single barrel of oil from the moment it comes out of the ground through all the pipelines and refineries, all the way to the consumer. That's essentially what volumetric accounting is. And it's crucial for things like royalty payments and making sure all that revenue reporting is accurate. If you mess that up, it can cost you big time. EAG helps these companies set up systems and best practices to avoid those really expensive mistakes.
So we've talked about the benefits for the companies themselves, but the article also talks about how this back office outsourcing thing helps the industry adapt to change. And the oil and gas market is known for being pretty volatile, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's constantly in flux. So outsourcing gives these companies the flexibility to scale their operations up or down way faster than they could if they had to like hire and fire a bunch of employees. It's just a much more agile approach,
Right.
which is super important in an industry where things can change like that.
Yeah, it makes sense. And they actually have this case study in the article about this midstream company in Houston. Apparently, they totally transformed their accounting operations by working with EAG. They implemented some new reporting solution using Microsoft tools. And the article says it took their efficiency to like the next level.
Yeah, that case study is really interesting. It shows that EAG isn't just about taking over the existing processes. They're really looking for ways to make things better using technology. So it's not just outsourcing, it's more like optimization, finding the best possible solution for each client.
That's smart. And get this, they even talk about the future of back office outsourcing. AI and machine learning playing a bigger role, more focus on data analytics, and even sustainability reporting.
Yeah.
Sounds like EAG is setting themselves up to be the go-to for all that.
Yeah, and what's interesting is how that connects to a bigger trend in oil and gas. We're seeing a shift away from this idea that companies have to do everything themselves.
So like more collaboration, more specialization.
Exactly. They're realizing that focusing on their core strengths and partnering with experts in other areas can actually make them more competitive.
So it's not just about efficiency. It's a strategic advantage.
Exactly. It's recognizing that you can't be a master of everything, especially in today's world. It just makes sense to bring in specialized knowledge and resources.
It makes me think about the future of work in general. Is this like a sign of things to come in other industries too?
Definitely a trend to watch as technology keeps advancing and businesses need to be more agile and efficient. I think we'll see more and more companies doing this kind of thing.
So instead of these huge companies that do everything, we'll see more networks of specialized companies working together.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's like an ecosystem, each company playing a specific role, contributing their own expertise.
And companies like EAG are kind of the connectors in that ecosystem.
Exactly. They bridge the gap between the companies that need those specialized services and the experts who can provide them.
Fascinating. What does that mean for the future workforce?
It's a big question. But it seems like adaptability and specialized skills are going to be more important than ever.
So instead of being a jack of all trades, you need to be a master of one.
And be able to work well with other masters. That's key.
Now, the article talks a lot about the benefits of EAG's approach, but it doesn't really get into any potential downsides of back-office outsourcing. Are there any risks companies should be aware of?
That's a good question. Like any business strategy, there are potential drawbacks. One thing to consider is the risk of losing control over sensitive data and processes. So it's really important to choose a provider that you trust, one with strong security measures in place.
What else?
Communication and cultural differences can also be a challenge. If the outsourcing provider is in a different country, you might run into language barriers or different ways of working that need to be managed carefully.
So due diligence is key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You really need to vet those potential partners, establish clear communication, and set up ways to measure performance.
Makes sense. This has been really eye-opening. I'm already looking at my own to-do list thinking, what can I outsource?
I think that's a natural reaction. We all have those tasks we'd rather not do, or that someone else could do better. The key is to be strategic. Focus on outsourcing the things that aren't core to your business.
So back to EAG. What stands out to you the most about their approach?
I think it's their focus on the oil and gas industry. They're not just some general outsourcing company. They really understand the sector and the challenges these companies are facing, so they can offer tailored solutions.
And they seem to be ahead of the curve on things like AI and sustainability.
Yeah, they're definitely forward-thinking, positioning themselves as a valuable partner for the future.
It's almost like back-office outsourcing is becoming their secret weapon.
I think that's a good way to put it. It allows them to focus on their strengths and compete more effectively in a market that's constantly changing.
This deep dive has been fascinating. We've covered a lot, from the nitty-gritty of back-office outsourcing to how it's shaping the entire oil and gas industry. And even beyond oil and gas, right? It's really got me thinking about all the changes happening in the industry. It's not just about the drilling of pipelines anymore. It's about using expertise in whole new ways.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. This whole idea of specialization and partnerships is becoming so important. Companies are realizing that they don't have to be good at everything. They can focus on what they do best and let the experts like EAG handle the rest. It's a win-win.
It's like that saying, jack of all trades, master of none, right? These days, it's better to be a master of one.
Yeah.
And know how to team up with other masters.
Exactly. It makes you wonder what this means for the people working in oil and gas.
Right. If companies are outsourcing more, what skills are they going to need in the future?
It's the big question, isn't it? But it seems like adaptability is going to be key. And having those really specialized skills, we might see fewer of those generalist roles and more people with expertise in very specific areas.
So what stands out to you the most about all this, about EAG and this whole back office outsourcing thing? Does it change how you see the oil and gas sector? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. Let us know what you think.